Hey, all, this is Ron K. Armstrong, filmmaker extraordinaire. And today I want to talk to you about film financing secrets, getting investors. And I hope to make this into a series because I want to share my experience in the industry and raising money so that a lot of you filmmakers starting out cannot make the same mistakes. Now, to start off, one of the things I want to say, if you're looking to finance your film, there are a lot of different ways. And what I found out, and it works for me, is that there is no right way. You know, if anybody tells you that this is the way it has to be done, then they don't know what they're talking about. Myself, I don't do too much crowdfunding. I know that's the latest craze because in order to do a successful crowdfunding campaign, you have to have a lot of followers. And the numbers will bear that out. You know, a lot of followers can mean a lot of people who are going to contribute to your project. And there are a lot of good videos on that online you can find out about. So check that out. But what I'm going to specifically talk about here is, let's say you've put together an LLC and you have a limited what's it called, limited liability corporation, and you have your contract and all that, and you're out there trying to solicit investors. You have your escrow account set up to put the money in there, but how do you find the investors for your project is the tricky thing. So I'm gonna give you some secrets that I think work pretty well, and the devil is in the details. So the most important thing I can relate to you is pay attention to these minute details because they make a world of difference. Without that, you're going to be encountering some challenges and not really understanding why you're hitting your head against the wall. And it's funny because it's those little things that really amount to a big difference, you know? So I'll pinpoint those as we go along. So the first thing you need to know about this, right, is, as I said, you have everything set up. You're out there and you've got a great project. You're looking for investors. The first thing that is going to make or break you is your enthusiasm. There's a saying that goes, state is transferable. And what I mean by that is the state that you're in is the state that your prospect or your investor will feel. If you're really excited about the project, if you can't stop talking about it, if you're dreaming about it, the investor's going to feel that. They're going to feel that energy, and it's going to transfer to them. And I think this is the most important thing because aside from the numbers, which obviously you have to present your numbers, the investor wants to know, is this project meaningful? Does it mean something to you first and foremost? Because if it does, then it will mean something to him or her. So keep that in mind, that state is transferable. If you want your investor to feel excited about the project, you have to first feel excited about the project. And if you don't, then you have to reevaluate what you're doing, basically, because it's not going to work. You know, the best thing I can recommend is, if you're going to do a presentation, that your presentation should be 80% hype, 20% numbers and the facts, because if you can't sell them on the idea of making a grand motion picture that's going to go to the theaters and it's about this story about this guy who meets this woman and all that, if you can't sell them on that idea in the beginning, it's going to be a tough battle from there on in. All right. So that is the first thing before we get into the meat and potatoes of things. All right. Where do you find your investors from? The one thing you want to start looking at is social media. Avenues of opportunity are Facebook and LinkedIn. There you can find a wealth of leads. So you can start canvassing them for leads, and you should be reaching out to people on those platforms, at least 100 leads a week, sending them messages. Now, there's a way you should be crafting the message. I don't want to go into that right now, but there are really tried and true proven ways to write your message to gain their interest. So you should be reaching out, again, at least 100 leads per week. That should yield you at least 3 appointments a week, because most of those will fall off. They won't return your message or get back to you. Now, the next point that you want to keep in mind is this really cool saying, which is fortune is in the follow-up. It takes at least 3 attempts to get somebody's interest, or it takes at least the person being exposed 3 times to your offer before they become initially interested. So you reach out to someone through Facebook or LinkedIn, and initially they don't respond to you. And you don't just throw your hands up and say, well, I tried. No, you've got to go back to them at least two more times. All right. And again, keep in mind that you should be very excited and passionate about your project. And that translates over into the written word and how you're communicating that through your messages. All right. Now, here's another important thing. And this is what I was talking about, the devil's in the detail, and some small things make a difference. When you get that interest from that prospect, the one thing you want to do is you want to set the appointment for them. If you're talking to, let's say, John, he says, John, thanks for being interested. I got an opening on Monday at 3 p.m. Can we meet at a local Starbucks that I know of near 34th Street? Don't allow them to say, well, let me get back to you when my schedule is free, or let me look at my schedule. Set the appointment right then and there. And if they can't make 3 p.m. Monday, then you propose a new time and say, well, what about Wednesday at 10 a.m.? And just be relentless. Keep proposing times until they say yes. But don't leave. If you're instant messaging them, don't end the conversation until you get an appointment, until you set the appointment, not them. Because most times they won't set the appointment. They'll just say, well, yeah, it seems interesting. Send me something, or let me get back to you. So be really aggressive with it and set something up. Now, speaking on that, the next point is be versatile. Some people can't meet in person. So have your presentation or your pitch, have a version of it ready online. So you can have a PDF of it that you can send to them. Or you can have MP4 or movie. I've actually done a movie trailer with the presentation within the trailer itself, so that was kind of interesting. So there are different ways to do it, but be versatile. You can even do a conference call. If they're too busy. Sorry. The one thing I like to do on that point too is I'd like to get a group of investors together on the conference call, because that way it becomes more interesting, because you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, meaning that you may have 2 or 3 appointments set up, and instead of like setting 3 different times, you can all have them together on the call at once. And the great thing about that is the energy can be electric. It can rub off on each other. So when you're doing the pitch, everyone becomes excited and they're more likely to invest. Okay. So I think that works really well. But again, what I have is like an executive summary, and I also have my actual proposal. And sometimes, I know investors don't want to go through the entire proposal. Sometimes I'll give them just the executive summary. Other times I'll have a PowerPoint presentation. So just again, be versatile in how you do it. I've met people in their office. I've met people in the Starbucks. I've met people in a local diner. I've done my presentations online. I've also done it through WebEx, conference calls. Just don't say no to an opportunity or look at it as though, well, no, I can't do it that way, So, but one thing you want to do is, if you're going to meet them in person for coffee or something like that, don't pay for the coffee. Or if you're going to meet them for lunch, don't pay for the lunch, because this is an opportunity that you're bringing to them to make some money. And you're not there to be, wooing them in that way, in terms of like giving all these lunches. And if you're setting up a lot of appointments per week, it's going to cost you some money if you start buying coffee or lunches for every potential investors. And to be honest with you, some of them will just waste your time, which is why I'm going to go on to my next point. Have deadlines set. Let them know that, listen, I'm only offering this opportunity until the 14th. So I need you to make a quick decision from right there. After the 14th, we're rolling into production, because if you don't set that deadline, they're going to string you along, and they're going to be thinking about it. They're going to be like, oh, I have to talk to my wife. I have to talk to my husband. I have to talk to my kitty cat. It's just going to be ridiculous. So set a definitive deadline. And don't waver on that and say, after the 30th, I'm no longer accepting investors because we have a tight production schedule and we got to roll this sucker out. And one of the things that you want to keep in mind too is that some investors will keep asking for meetings. They'll keep asking for things. Well, can I see cash flow projections for 6 months? Well, now can I see cash flow projections for a year? Now can I see it for 2 years? And you're going to find yourself meeting after meeting after meeting. But when you feel they're about to make a commitment, the next meeting, you've got to set the expectations and tell them, listen, when I meet with you, I'm really expecting you to write a check right then and there so we can close this deal. Let them know that. I mean, I've met some people who, when I met them, they were like, oh, I forgot to bring my checkbook. And I'm like, well, what was the purpose of us meeting then? So set the expectations, be very clear with them that during that meeting, you expect them to cut a check. Otherwise, there's no point in meeting, and you have other prospects you have to move on to who are serious. Again, remember, you're bringing them a great opportunity to make some money. All right. And I would say the last thing is when you're doing your first initial round of getting investors and getting the money, you should always consider it as the seed round. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but your seed round is when you're just getting money, which will be used for things like your accountant, your lawyer, contracts, those things, and not necessarily for the actual production. Because, a good agreement, a good contract can cost you anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, depending upon the type of contract it is, So a good accountant, a good attorney costs money by the hour. So before you're raising money for the actual film, you need some seed money, unless you already have a good bank account that has some money in it that you can leverage for the seed round. The other thing is, what I find that works too is if you're getting smart investors. So what are smart investors? They're investors who have an inside knowledge of the industry that you're in. And they're the types that you really want to talk to and work with, because when things are delayed or when things don't go as planned, they understand because they have an inside knowledge in the industry. It's those investors that aren't smart investors who will quickly panic if there's a delay or things don't go as planned, because they don't understand how the industry works, So they'll look at you and blame you for something that's kind of typical, and you're like, like for example, you may need completion funds and have to go a second round of funding. A smart investor will understand that. Whereas a regular investor will be like, well, what did you blow the money on? What happened? They won't understand that, certain productions, especially like maybe a sci-fi film, can burn through a lot of cash in post-production with CGI, things of that nature. So, a smart investor can really help you and partner with you, and that causes you so much of a headache, and a lot of smart investors know to keep their mouths quiet and let you have full creative control and autonomy on the project. So keep that in mind, okay? And these are the key points in finding investors and meeting with them and setting your appointments and doing your pitch to them. Remember, again, as I said earlier on, one of the most important things is demonstrate your passion, be excited, because if you're excited, they're excited. And let me tell you something, that good feeling and emotion of doing a project that you truly believe in is a rallying cry. It can bring people together and on your side to bring the project to fruition. It can be more powerful than the numbers, the cash flow projections or the financial projections, if you do it right. And everyone loves a rags to riches story. So, you tell them your story. Say, listen, I've always wanted to make a film. I dreamed about being a filmmaker. This is an opportunity. It's a golden opportunity. Don't miss this opportunity. I thought about bringing it to you. There are a lot of people I could bring this offer to, but you came first to my mind when I was thinking about this. Let's Let's partner together. Let's make this happen. Let's meet Thursday, 4 p.m., Starbucks. There you go. I gave it to you. There's the pitch right there. That's the setup. So if you have any questions, please, I welcome any questions in your comment. Put them in the comment box. If you like this video and you want to see more, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I'll come back with another installment of Film Financing Secrets. Until then, this is Ron K. Armstrong, filmmaker extraordinaire, and that's all for now.